What's up guys, my name is Ace, and the Season 1 update is now here for Battlefield 6, and with this we did see a lot of changes. There was quite a long list of those. I covered the highlights based on the patch notes a few days back, and I will leave those patch notes linked down below as well. But in today's video, I wanted to focus on and take a before and after look at 3 of the key changes that happened out of the many that did take place with this update. And these are spread or bloom adjustments. I think a lot of people are very curious about that, myself included. I've been waiting for this update since launch, actually. Also, visibility changes, specifically transitioning from like inside to outside buildings or vice versa. And then finally, I also wanted to take a quick look at the Sledgehammer and how that's been nerfed against walls. And let's just go in reverse order of what I just said there and quickly take a look at the Sledgehammer. And as we can see here, pre-patch, it was only taking 2 hits to take out most walls with a Sledgehammer. Whereas post-patch, it now takes you 4 hits to take out the exact same wall. So it seems like they cut the damage in half when it comes to the Sledgehammer versus the environment, at least. Next, when it comes to visibility, pre-patch, this is what it looked like when you were inside a building and trying to look outward, and how it changed as you got closer to the outside area. You can see it's very blown out until you get very close to the edge, and then it will slowly fade in so you can see what you're looking at. Whereas post-patch, in the same scenario, you can see so much better from inside looking out, and the transition is a lot smoother and faster as well. And this is huge. This is something that many of us have had an issue with since the beta build of the game, so I'm glad they got on top of this one. However, let's also look at the opposite situation, where you're outside and then moving into a building or looking into a building. And this bathroom here was a particular problem area. As you can see here, pre-patch, walking from outside into this building, it was like total darkness, and it took way too long for the character's eyes to adjust. Whereas post-patch, this is what it looks like now. You can see there's no more pitch blackness at all. And on top of that, once you do get yourself in there, it does adjust much faster to the new environment. So these were some excellent visibility changes. I'm very happy to see those. Now let's get into the spread adjustments, or many people know it as bloom or dispersion. Essentially, this is the mechanic where, especially as you continue firing, the shots no longer go where your reticle is pointed, and they will deviate off in a random direction. And with this, just looking at the max spread values, when I'm just holding down the trigger with infinite ammo here, honestly, the maximum spread values are looking pretty similar here on the M4 as well as the SGX. Those are the 2 guns I decided to test for this, since I was anticipating changes to both of these. However, let's take a deeper look here, and I'm just going to show you all the recoil plots that I did pre-patch versus post-patch with SMGs, carbines, and assault rifles, but we'll start this off with the assault rifle category. Keeping in mind, I'm firing full auto using a mouse and keyboard for this, so we're seeing the full recoil take place, although spread is the same between mouse and keyboard and controller based on all my testing anyway. And of course, with this, I'm not controlling recoil at all, so you're seeing a combination of recoil as well as spread. And as you can see, unsurprisingly, the recoil itself hasn't really changed. However, the amount of spread you experience, more specifically the amount of time it takes before the spread really starts kicking in, that has definitely been improved, at least on some guns. It does seem to vary from gun to gun, at least to some degree here. I would say the big standout here is actually the M433. With this, when you look at the first roughly 8 shots fired, pre-patch, you could see they were immediately spreading out like crazy, whereas post-patch, the recoil plot's got like a tail to it, where it's a very narrow recoil path for the initial shots fired, and then you can see it start spreading out after you continue to hold down the trigger. So that means this gun's going to be significantly more accurate now if you're tap firing or firing in short bursts. Now, of course, that's just the most obvious example out of all of these, but you see a very similar trend if you look very carefully. I see a similar trend with many of these assault rifles. Although the TR7, this one actually seems to have more initial spread after the update compared to before the updates. That's looking definitely worse to me. I don't know if they actually targeted this or the recoil on this is just so inherently random that that's what we're seeing with these recoil plots. But overall, with these guns, you should notice, at least with the initial shots fired, it's going to take longer for that spread to kick in on them. Then let's look at our plots with the carbines. And once again, we see a bit of a similar trend here, especially with like the M4, for instance. Those initial shots fired are pure recoil, no spread involved whatsoever. Whereas pre-patch, that spread was kicking in very, very quickly. And even the really accurate guns like the AK-205 or the M417, these are also experiencing less of that spread with your initial shots fired. So definitely some slight improvements here, but again, our maximum spread values really didn't seem to change much, if at all, with these guns, once you get to the top end of those recoil plots. And then finally, with the SMGs, we were actually anticipating some potential nerfs to spread here because the SMGs had so little spread before the update. So the other categories were meant to get a buff, and as far as the vague descriptions were worded in the patch notes, it seemed like the SMGs were maybe going to get a bit of a nerf in this area. However, based on what I'm seeing here, it doesn't look any worse post-patch compared to pre-patch, and if anything, some of these are looking a little bit better. Like the SL9, for instance, it does seem it's taking longer for that spread to kick in on that recoil plot. Same thing with the PW7 or the MP7, that one also seems to have less spread when you start firing your gun. And we definitely see the same story there with the USG90, so I don't think the SMGs really got nerfed in the spread department, at least not by a noticeable margin when performing tests in this manner. And therefore, as far as I can tell, it looks like we got some improvements to spread pretty much just across the board. I assume this takes place with the other weapon categories as well. Unfortunately, I didn't have pre-patch testing on those yet. I just didn't get there yet. But it does look like when it comes to spread in this game, for the most part, we're going to be seeing less spread with initial shots fired. It's going to take longer for that spread to kick in. However, the maximum amount of spread that we're seeing generally appears to be consistent pre-patch versus post-patch, so you're still going to be punished fairly harshly if you're firing full auto for too long. Now, something else I wanted to address here with spread in this update, according to the patch notes, they were not only meant to be making some adjustments like this to the spread, they were also meant to be fixing some bugs. One key one is the amount of spread you experience after coming out of a sprint, but like you've stopped sprinting and therefore your spreads should be resetting. It wasn't resetting properly. And according to the patch notes, that was meant to be included in this patch. But according to Florian, one of the devs, in a reply on Twitter, he said the bug fixes are not in this update. And that might not have been clear from the previous comms, but they are coming into a later update during Season 1. So they have made some spread adjustments here, but they haven't fixed all of the bugs surrounding spread yet. So you still may run into some frustrating situations where it feels like you should have reset your spread and it should be more accurate than it actually is, but you're experiencing some form of a bug that's giving you a wider spread than intended. Now, in saying that, there is one key bug that was taking place here that they have made an adjustment to with this update that you may be curious about, and this is to the sniper rifles, specifically using sniper rifles off class. So when you're using the sniper rifle on a class that's not Recon, when you first aim down sight, even though you were fully aimed down sight, your bullet simply wouldn't go where you were aiming. And this was incredibly frustrating because there was nothing telling you why you should be missing those shots. You would just be missing those shots. It would feel like you were shooting through the enemy player with no damage dealt. After the Season 1 updates, now when you're doing this, you see why you're missing those shots. And what they did here is they just made it so your sway is always applying, even while you're in the process of aiming down sight and getting fully aimed down sight. You're not actually going to be aiming down sight directly to the center of your screen. And therefore, you still may be missing those shots when you first aim down sight, but you'll see why you're missing those shots, unlike before the updates. And just to be clear, if you are using a sniper rifle with Recon, this is where you see those accuracy benefits take place. As you can see, every time I aim down sight, I will be aiming down sight directly to the center of my screen, and then this way will start applying, but only if I'm using Recon with that sniper rifle. And there we go. That's pretty much it. Those are the main areas I wanted to focus on when looking at actual like pre-patch versus post-patch comparisons here. Like I said, there were tons of other changes that were made with this update. I couldn't possibly fit them all into one video or go through the process of collecting pre-patch versus post-patch footage. So that's why I took a more focused approach here on the bigger things that I think most of us were really looking forward to with this update. And this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you feeling about these adjustments I talked about today, as well as any other adjustments you've noticed with the Season 1 update? Are you guys generally happy with what you're seeing here? Were you expecting more? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.